and then I'll go. Okay. Great. Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Kristen Pula. I'm the Capital Programs Manager for the Housing, Homelessness, and Community Development Division in the county's DCHS. I want to thank you all for joining us to talk about the 2021 Housing Finance Program Limited RFP, which was released 1 week ago on July 30th. In light of the change to our funding round this year, we're holding this session today to provide an overview of the limited funding round, including applicant eligibility, funding priorities, and funding availability, and to provide time to hear and respond to questions from potential applicants. So please note also that all questions and answers from today's session will be posted as an addendum to the RFP in Zoom Grants. And next slide. So we have about an hour together today, and staff will take the first 10 to 15 minutes to provide an overview of the limited RFP, and then we'll have 40 to 45 minutes to hear your questions and provide answers. We do request that you hold your questions until we get through the overview so that we can get to the Q&As faster. And next slide. Given the number of people on the call today, we're not going to do individual introductions. In addition to me, your main presenters today are Tina Ilvenen, the HFP manager, and Andrea Howerton, our RFP coordinator. We are also supported by additional county staff. And we would ask all of you, when you ask a question, to please say your name and your organization. And as you probably are well aware by now, to ask a question in Zoom, you can either raise your hand or you can place your question in the chat. And next slide. So why are we here today? Why is the county offering a limited RFP this year? As you all are well aware, and many of you are directly experiencing, the increases in material and labor costs are driving budget gaps in projects that have been previously funded and that are ready to start construction. So King County is prioritizing our limited housing capital resources to address those budget gaps first. And then we will offer the remaining resources, which is up to approximately $16 million through this limited RFP. So what do we mean by a limited RFP? Who's eligible to apply? And what are the funding priorities and resources available? That's what we're going to cover for the next few minutes. And I'm going to turn it over to Tina Ilvenen to address those now.
Good morning, everyone. I wanted to go over the limited RFP eligibility criteria, and I wanted to preface all my comments with the fact that more details are in the RFP that has been issued. So I will just say that first. But to be eligible to apply, the project must meet one of the following criteria. Projects that have been previously awarded King County funds in the 2020 Housing Finance Program funding round, or projects that were previously awarded transit-oriented development budget allocations and are not yet fully funded, as well as projects that don't have an Housing Finance Program award, but have other King County support, such as a land commitment or a program investment. And the third category has two parts. Projects that are transit-oriented development projects in North or East King County, and permanent supportive housing projects serving homeless populations in King County. In addition to these eligibility criteria, applicants must have also attended an HFP pre-application meeting prior to July 29th. And as Kristen said, we have approximately $16 million available this funding round, with up to $246,000 of mid-behavioral health funding. We have up to 1.1 million of RAP, Regional Affordable Housing Program funds, up to 1.9 million of federal home funds, up to 3.2 million of Veteran Senior Human Service Levy funds. And that fund source is broken into either multifamily, which is 2.6 million available for veterans only, and home ownership of 600,000, which is available to serve both veterans and vulnerable populations. In addition, there is 9.2 million of transit-oriented development funds, and that is broken into 2 million of 2019 funds that are for North King County and 7.2 million of funds from the 2016 allocation that are for North and East King County. There's also up to 697,000 available of document recording fee. And I just wanted to say that each one of these fund sources has different requirements as far as some have geographic requirements, some have AMI requirements, some have population specific requirements. So please look at the RFP for those details, for more specifics on those fund sources. But that's what we have. We will have up to this amount available this funding round. Next slide, please. Okay, also this funding round, we will have vouchers and ORS support available. These are for projects, for permanent supportive housing projects outside of Seattle serving chronically homeless. The King County Housing Authority is offering up to 200 vouchers, and King County is offering operating rental and supportive services support for PSH projects. Next slide, please. We also have funding priorities. This fund round, as we normally do, these were approved by King County Council in April or March. We have system connected housing is one of our funding priorities, transit-oriented development projects, homeless and extremely low-income housing projects, as well as homeownership development are our funding priorities this round, with a new 5th funding priority that is equitable driven community development. This priority is for projects that are developed by and in collaboration with communities facing displacement pressures and communities that have historically experienced policies that limit opportunities for people of color. Next slide, please. Okay, and the timeline for the RFP is today we have our question and info session. If you weren't able to ask a question, you can post a written question in the RFP. There's a place in Zoom Grants to post your question. We will post answers on August 20th. We're also recording today's session, so all of today's questions and answers will be posted. Applications are due on September 10th at 2 p.m. That is the Zoom Grants submittal, and that is the application, and all attachments are due on Zoom Grants. In addition, we have a USB drive that's due on September 17th. And that is because we had technical difficulties with Zoom Grants last year. So we're requesting a USB drive again with your application and all the attachments. We're giving you a week to get that to us, either by mail or dropping off in the office. Again, look at the RFP for details on where to mail the USB drive. And if you'd like to drop it off, please connect with our RFP coordinator, Andrea Howerton, because she will make sure that you get the USB drive to the right person. And we have different people in the office on different days. So just there's a bit of coordination there. But both of those are due September 10th and September 17th. We also, once we receive the applications, the Housing Finance Program staff looks, reviews, underwrites the applications. We have application clarification interviews beginning on November 1st, and we will send out award notices or non-award notices by December 31st. Next slide, please. Okay, and the application materials are different if you're applying for multifamily versus homeownership. There's attachment 1A, which is the table of contents and self-certification, the combined funders sections, and the combined funders forms, which are the Excel spreadsheets, as well as the supplemental questions and the geography spreadsheet. So if you're applying for a multifamily project, it's attachment 1A, 2A, 3A, 4 and 5. Home ownership is 1B, 2B, 3B, 4 and 5. Next slide, please. And then we also wanted to highlight the naming conventions for the files, just so that we know you've included the items and we know how to find them. Please name the files with the tab, the item number, and the name of the document. For example, this is the table of contents attachment requests for tab 2. So this item, the title report, would be named 2.4 title report because it's item 4 on the list. So something on tab 2.9 would be labeled 2.9 phase 2. And that will really help us. So the remainder of this meeting will be dedicated to answering questions, and all questions and answers will be posted. Please raise your hand to ask a question and introduce yourself with your name and the name of your organization. And again, all questions could be submitted in writing via the contact admin tab in Zoom Grants until August 13th if you're not able to ask your question today. Thank you. I already see a few questions in the chat, so maybe I'll look at those. So if you have not done a pre-meeting last month, you cannot apply. That's correct. The intent to apply notice went out, I believe it was in early April, and that notice went out far and wide. We asked for pre-application materials, which are not a requirement, but it is a requirement to meet with us. So if you did not have a pre-application meeting prior to July 29th, you are not eligible to apply. Can you publish who is eligible?
I think, Tina, we could publish the list of folks who came in for pre-application meetings. So we can certainly publish that list. We'll, Andrea, we can work with you to figure out where we post that if it goes in Zoom Grants.
Sure, no problem.
April was a long time ago, Lauren, but we did send out multiple notices and reminders to please meet with us. Anyone that began submitting pre-application materials in Zoom Grants, we reached out again and said, we see you started to submit materials. Even if they weren't completed, we asked to meet with them. So we did have, I'm estimating maybe 35 or 40 pre-application meetings. But yeah, as Kristen said, we can get those published. I'm gonna just
So
scroll.
we can have that posted probably by Monday morning on the Zoom grants, and we'll work with Andrea to do that.
Okay, those are the only questions I'm seeing in the chat. Does anyone else have questions?
If you don't have a raise hand function, feel free to speak up.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Akila Jimerson. My question is, I'm from Community Roots Housing. My question is does different programs or needs take priority for different projects?
We have 5 priorities this funding round. We have transit-oriented development, homeless housing, homeownership housing, system-connected housing, and equitable community-driven development. There is not one that is a higher priority than the other. They are priorities of this funding round. So if one project is, I don't know what else. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, you did. Thank you.
Okay.
And I want to just add on to that question. Is it for certain areas that might take priority as well, or?
Well, the transit-oriented development funds that we have available are in North and East King County, if you're asking about transit-oriented development. And that is why that's one of the eligibility criteria for this fund round, is that we have 9.2 million available of TOD funds, but specifically in North and East counties.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Kurt asked, there is some, or stated there's some evidence that the peak material cost inflation may have passed. Can you foresee releasing more new funding later in the fall or winter? I'll let Kristen answer that question.
Thanks for that question, Kurt. We have already had some gaps that we have addressed, so that money is gone. And then I think, yes, this will be an evolving situation. We know there are a few projects yet that in our pipeline that are starting construction later this year. So I think, as you're suggesting, we'll need to see if those costs have come down enough that it solves the gaps. So it's an evolving situation. I know that's not a perfect answer. It's just going to be a little uncertain while we continue to address gaps.
Tina, this is Kimberly Silverdine with New Birth Center for Community Inclusion. And I had a question before Kurt that I put in the chat. What qualifies as commitment from King County?
Other HFP or other non, Diego, can you go back to the eligibility slide? Is that up?
It's there now. Can you see it, Tina?
No, I'm just seeing people's faces. What happened? So eligibility, one of the eligibility criteria is other King County support, such as land or other King County funding awards from outside of the housing finance program. So it would either be an award of land or an award of funding outside of the housing finance program. Did that answer your question, Kimberly?
it's broad. So if you receive funding from any source in King County, that's commitment.
Well, I mean, how did we state that in the RFP?
Kimberly, is there a specific commitment that you could help us? Like, what commitment do you have that you're wondering about?
I'm looking at more so at my partners
Okay,
and in collaboration in doing work. And so and that's why I'm asking this question. Is it any kind of broad commitment? We have had any commitment. New Birth hasn't had any commitment, although we did do our pre-application, but we had no commitment. But if there's on a partnership level,
is it can you say if it's a commitment to a specific project?
well,
That's what
yes,
we're
I'm just
looking
thinking,
for.
is
Okay.
it, I'm just trying to figure out what is that, or other program investment. That is more so the best way of asking the question, or other program investment.
So that might be an investment of pre-development dollars. I think I'd have to see your specific, we'd have to see your specific question. So we can certainly, I think, have some clarification time with you, Andrea, if you can advise on that, to understand a little bit more what the exact program commitments or investments that your partners have.
Thank you.
And Kimberly, I think as well, if you're also talking about the Skyway projects, just a note that this limited RFP, this change here does not affect the separate Skyway $5 million. So that money is still available, and we will be working closely with the community over the next 2 months to develop that RFP.
Thank you.
And really for the commitment, we're looking for, some type of documented award or investment to a project.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I skipped that question, Kimberly. I didn't see it.
No
There's
problem,
a question.
Tina. That's okay. No worries.
Someone said assistant city manager. I can't see what city. What city said, I'm new in my role and hearing about this opportunity. I don't know if anyone from my city was looped in. I'm sorry.
City of Kenmore. We're Northeast King County, and I'm new. I just came into my role a month ago, so I'm not sure if anyone from my city was looped in to this or did a pre-application meeting, but we definitely have projects. So just curious how that worked.
We don't normally meet with cities. We normally meet with developers that are developing a housing project within the city. So if someone's working within your city, they may have met with someone in your city also to talk about zoning or city support.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Mindy's question, is a resolution from the real estate committee of a board sufficient to comply with the board resolution requirement?
I also edited that question that I'd like to clarify that the real estate committee has full authority to approve resolutions without the remaining components of the board.
If they have authority to do so, then we would accept that resolution. And Joanna asked, to be crystal clear, if a project does not meet one of the limited eligibility criteria, then we should not submit an application, correct? That is correct. These are the criteria that are listed in order to be eligible to apply this funding round. And I'm glad that that page is still up. Now I can see it.
And Tina, there's one here from Michelle Moreland. You want me to?
Yeah,
read
I'm
it?
working back up.
Oh, okay, great.
If a project has already received county funds and identifies a gap now and did not go through this pre-app round, would they be able to apply? Or would they need to apply, or would a potential increase in county funds just be an administrative process? If the project was fully funded, Michelle, and is now identifying a gap as you're getting your construction estimates in, that is the administrative process that we can, that we're working through right now to fill budget gaps for projects that are otherwise ready to start construction. And that's, you know, our top priority is to get projects that are previously awarded, that are ready to move forward, have all their, you know, had all their financing, and then when they got their construction estimates, find that they have a gap. So that can come in through our administrative budget adjustment process.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I see 2 more messages. Thea asked if we can get information about the funding by geography. Well, some of the fund sources do not have geographic limitations, and some of them do. And the ones that do, it specifically states the fund source is only available, you know, outside of Seattle, or within Seattle, or North King County. But that's not every fund source. Some fund sources only have an AMI restriction. Some fund sources have a population restriction. So in the RFP, the restrictions are listed for each fund source, whether they be geographic, AMI, or population. And when you say project, do you mean a building project? Yes, all these projects we're talking about are capital housing, either multifamily or home ownership, new construction, or acquisition rehab capital projects.
Tina, I just want to clarify, when you say vulnerable populations for homelessness, and that's including youth, young adults projects?
The vulnerable population definition is within our Veteran Senior Human Service Levy implementation plan, and it's a very broad definition. It includes many populations that have reduced health and reduced health, and I forget the other. It's a very broad definition, but and the Veteran Senior Human Service Levy implementation plan is linked in the RFP. So I would suggest you look that up, because I don't want to get it wrong, but it covers a lot of people as full population, but the vulnerable population funds that we have are only for home ownership.
Okay.
Thank you. Remaining in this RFP.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I think I got all the questions in the chat.
Did anyone ask a question in the chat that we've not addressed? What other questions do people have?
Any questions that you have, if you are reading the RFP in more detail, if questions come up, you can submit them through Zoom Grants through August 13th, and we will post answers by August 20th.
Andrea, is there anything else you wanted to address here? Any questions you've heard?
Yeah, about the USB port, I just want to reiterate that your application and all attachments are due on the 10th in Zoom Grants, and that is where the evaluation team will be pulling the application to review. And the USB port is literally a copy of what you've already submitted on Zoom Grants, just in case you have technical difficulties. And that's why we're giving an extra week to get it in, but they should be the exact same documents. Just to clarify that.
Yeah, we're not going to look at your USB submission unless we have issues with the ones in the Zoom grants. So it should be exactly the same.
Rental assistance vouchers, Kurt, have a minimum. I think it's 35 this year.
It is 35.
Okay, so a minimum of 35 project-based vouchers for permanent supportive housing projects. Those will be offered through KCHA, up to 200 project-based vouchers. So there's a minimum, not a maximum, Kurt. Unfortunately, no one from KCHA was able to join us today, but if there's more questions on the voucher availability, we can get those answered at a later date. They normally will have a mix of mainstream vouchers and BASH vouchers, but I'm unsure what their mix is this year. You're welcome. Other questions? The application materials slide again. Yes, we can get that slide up. Okay, so the combined funders application is what we're using. And that is attachment 1A, 2A, and 3A for multifamily. It's the table of contents. The narrative section is 2A, and the Excel forms are 3A. And then we have King County supplemental questions and the geography spreadsheet. So each project will have five items, and as well as attachments that are to be attached to each tab as outlined in the table of contents. So the table of contents will say, please put tab 2 CFA section narrative, tab 2 form, tab 2 attachments. And then the table of contents will ask for tab 3 narrative section, tab 3 form section, and tab 3 attachments. It should be clear in the table of contents as how it should be outlined. And if it's not, please ask a question when you look at that attachment in Zoom Grants. You're welcome, Billy.
Tina, when is the next RFP coming out, and is it going to be limited as well?
Well, the Skyway RFP is expected to come out in
That will
October.
be October. Mhm. And then the next one for the housing finance program will be next year, 2022. And typically we do open rounds. This is unusual that we're doing a limited round this year, and that is really just due to the situation that we find ourselves in with limited resources and a lot of demand on those resources. So the next regular housing finance RFP will be in 2022. And the Skyway RFP, $5 million, will be released in October of 2021.
Thank you.
And the HFP RFP next year will be around the same time. Just for timing. Mason, you have a question? Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Thanks, Tina. Yeah, Mason from Community Roots. You know, I think your instructions are clear enough. I just want to confirm with regards to the bond scoring attachment. You know, it does say use the most recently published WSFIC application for that. I just want to confirm we're using the July 2021 bond scoring form and not kind of the proposed changes to bond scoring that we expect next year.
Oh, is that, I don't know if that's available yet.
Yeah.
That's a good
That's-
question, Mason.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think, Mason, we will loop with the Finance Commission on this and see when that's available, and we will post a response to that. So let us get back to you, to everyone on that question. The new one is not available that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and okay. And Joanna said the Finance Commission told her that mid-September they'd have the forms available. So that's
Okay.
mid-September, applications due September 10th. I mean, it seemed like it makes a lot of sense to provide bond scoring for, you know, for how it's being scored now, because they're changing it in 2022. So we may need to allow that to come in late or something if it's not due until, if it's not available. We'll follow up on that. Really good observation and question, Mason. Thank you. Probably the same for the 9%. No, the 9% is not changing. Okay.
Yeah, I think we can always ask for an update if they change their forms after ours is due. So we will continue to communicate about that, Mason and others.
That could be maybe one of our clarifying questions. Please resubmit your bond score form with the updated score sheet.
Exactly. So we'll get back to everyone on that one. And then I think Jeannie has a question.
Hi, I apologize because I came in late in the middle of the conversation, but can you clarify for me if the $5 million for Skyway does qualify as other program or does not?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Jeannie. This limited round does not affect the 5 million Skyway RFP. So there will still be a separate RFP for Skyway funds for $5 million. And that RFP, we're starting to work, as you know, deeply with the community right now to develop that RFP, and that will be published in October.
Got it.
So it's it'll be totally separate from this. And this change does not affect that. There is still the $5 million available for Skyway. Does that answer your question?
So it said that in order to apply for this, you had to also qualify for other. So is the 5 million other? That I
No, because the 5 million you wouldn't have yet as a commitment.
got.
Yeah, so they're not sequential like that. But if you have a project that has come in and met with Tina's team for a pre-application in Skyway that is ready for construction, you know, that's close, then it can still come through this round. But if you're at an earlier stage, I think many of the Skyway projects that we know about were at earlier phases of development and kind of in pre-development. If you're in that phase, then the more relevant RFP will be the Skyway RFP that comes out in October.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does that help? Okay.
Yeah, helps. Thank you so much.
But if there were a Skyway project that you have site control on and it's ready for construction, like you already know everything you're doing, you're ready to get the construction going, it could come into this round.
Got it. Okay.
If it meets the eligibility criteria and has
Right.
an application meeting.
Yeah,
Right.
no, that helps. Thank you so much.
Okay, you're welcome.
Really great
Other
questions today.
questions? Yeah, this is helpful. Anything someone's thinking about that you haven't voiced yet? Okay, well, I think one last call. Speak now. And as Tina said, if you think of another question you didn't have an opportunity to think of today, you can still submit questions. What's that date again, Tina?
August 13th.
August 13th. So one more week. If you didn't get something answered today or you have new questions, please send those to us on the Zoom grants. All right, everybody, thank you so much for your time. And we look forward to seeing your full applications as they come in September.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.